everyone. Welcome to Textile Talks. I'm so glad you could join us today. And it's so fun to see where everyone's connecting from. I'm Amy Milne, director of the Quilt Alliance, and I'm here in the beautiful foothills of Western North Carolina. And my colleague Emma Parker is here with me, and she's in Durham, connecting from Durham, North Carolina. So today on Textile Talks, we're going to hear some stories from the Go Tell It collection. I hope you're excited about that. And it's my hope that by the end of this program that you will have a bee in your bonnet about recording and sharing the Go Tell It project, recording your own Go Tell It, sharing the project with your community, and see if you can get some interest going to record the stories in your community. So let's go for it. As you already know, probably, or maybe you don't know if this is your first Textile Talk, Textile Talks is brought to you by a group, the Quilt Alliance, International Quilt Museum, SAQA, Studio Art Quilt Associates, and Surface Design Association. And I wanted to take a little time today to give you an update about Textile Talks and how popular it has become, how much it's being, how many of the videos have been watched. And did you know that since 2020, we have recorded 266 Textile Talks? They're all available to watch via YouTube. I'll ask my colleague Lucy Shaken from SAQA or Emma Parker from the Quilt Alliance to put that link in the chat now to the recording playlist on YouTube. 61 of those Textile Talks were presented by the Quilt Alliance, and our newsletter now reaches more than 20,000 people, subscribers. And each episode has an average of 473 live viewers. That is just fantastic. It's so great to see it grow. And I'd like to ask you to share the news about Textile Talks in your networks, on your social media. When we post one of the promotions for a textile talk that's coming up, feel free to share it. We would love to have your help in spreading the word. These are just a selection of the countries that Textile Talks viewers are connecting from. Do you see your country on that list? If you don't, put it in the chat. We want to add it. We draw these, Lucy draws these from the registration data that comes in each week. And it's just always so fascinating to see. So thank you. And if you don't see your native language in this list, put that in the chat too. We want to see where you're connecting to and what language is your native language. What a joy to be able to share these moments with you, all of you across the world. So cool. So thank you. The Quilt Alliance, that's who I'm representing today, is a national nonprofit. We do documentary work about quilts and quilt makers, and we have a membership program, and we would love to have you join us. I'm going to ask Emma to put our link in the chat now for membership. Today, I especially want to highlight group membership. If you're in a group or a quilt guild and you hire presenters, we would love to be a part of that. We would love to make a presentation. We've presented to guilds and groups all over the country, virtually and in person. And that fee is $200, but it's really a great deal for membership because that $200 includes our lecture and banner ads for your group in our newsletter. And all of your members also receive a free affiliate membership in the Quilt Alliance. So you can have your own login account separate from the groups. It's just a great deal, and we would love to have your support. These are two of the programs that we offer. The backstory, which is sort of a general documentation, why documentation is so important and how to commit to that practice in your own community and label that quilt, which is all about labeling all the various reasons why it's so critical to label and how to go about it. So please pass the word on to the program manager, program coordinator in your guild or group, or your library, your public library, or your a museum. We've presented in all of these places and organizations, and it's a great way to get our mission out there. Another way you can support us is to attend our upcoming fundraiser. The Ruby Star Society designer, Sarah Watts, is the interviewee, and Megan Guite, I think I'm saying her name wrong. I apologize, Megan. Their QSOS interview will be aired, and then we're going to have them on live with Melody Miller of Ruby Star Society and Lisa Alexander of Moda Fabrics and Karen Cooper of the Modern Quilt Guild to talk about this amazing impact that Ruby Star Society designers and sort of this subculture they've created has had on the quilt world. So I hope you'll join us for that. And Emma will put that, oh, you've already done it, put the link in the chat. So today, as always, please put your questions in the Q&A. If you have a question, we're going to have a little discussion at the end. We'll have just a little bit of time. So I would love to field your questions about the Go Tell It project, Quilt Alliance in general, or video when it comes to quilts. Those are all topics that we would love to discuss today. Questions in the Q&A box, and any other comments, or if you have technical questions and you need help, please put those in the chat box. And if you'd like to turn on captions, you can look for the CC or show captions button on your screen or in your settings. So today we're going to talk about the Go Tell It project, and it is exactly as simple as listed here. One quilt, one person, one camera, 3 minutes, another quilt story saved. These are videos that are recorded by anyone who wants to do it. It's a grassroots project, uploaded on our website, or you can upload it separately to your video sharing platform. You don't have to submit it to the bigger collection, but it's a really simple way to document a quilt. And it doesn't have to be a quilt that you've made. It can be a quilt that you own that you want to document. So let's talk about what goes into it. It's a very simple project, as I said, and it's about sharing the stories of quilts. And these are personal stories, and there is just, the sky is the limit in terms of what you want to talk about. Some people, I'm going to show you 16 different short videos in the course of this program, and you'll see how broad the range of what people talk about is. Sometimes they talk about history, inspiration, the meaning, how they made the quilt, what frustrated them, what delighted them, but it's a very simple formula. And, first of all, you've just got to pick a quilt. Some people pick a quilt based on the importance to them. Some people pick their first quilt. Some people pick a quilt that was gifted to them. But the only parameters that we ask people to talk about one quilt in each video, but you can do as many videos as you'd like. You don't have to have a script, although some people do write out what they want to say. Most people just sort of think about it and begin. And, I think what we usually say is, why does this quilt matter to you? Talk about why it's special, why it's important. What are the techniques? What are the materials that you used? And I think this is really important. What isn't visible about a quilt? Because we know all quilts have stories, but what would I not know if I saw this quilt without you speaking about it? Sometimes people talk about what choices they made in making the quilt, and I always find that so interesting. And sometimes it's about their inspiration. And of course, that's not always obvious. So to prepare for a Go Tell It, you need a camera. And, really, your smartphone is an excellent camera for this purpose. The only thing you have to think about is turning it this way. Whoops. Turning it this way as opposed to this way. That way it fits the YouTube format better. And you want to say at the beginning of the video a little bit about, you know, where you are, what the date is. We call that a bookend. And so it's the beginning of the video. And sometimes it helps to have a cue card. So this is an example of a cue card that would be used for the person videotaping can hold it. You can tape it on the tripod. You can tape it on the person who's doing the filming. But I find that it's really useful because you get a little bit nervous sometimes before you do record a video. And this allows you to know exactly what you're going to start off with. And sometimes just having that can help you overcome your fears. And as I said, you want to hold the camera horizontally. This is an image that Emma took, and it shows a very makeshift tripod of her ironing board and a box. And she's got the front camera so that it's coming, it's filming her from the front or I guess that's the back camera, not the front camera. It's what you would use for a selfie. And you don't really need any other equipment. Of course, you could have a quilt stand. I have a quilt behind me that's on a quilt stand, and I'm all set up and ready to do a Go Tell It if I chose to. So I've sort of cropped it out so that the quilt is filling up the frame. But depending on the size of the quilt, you may want to get back further. And you don't really need to have a microphone. You can get a microphone that you connect, a Bluetooth microphone you connect to your phone, but it's not necessary. Just speak loudly and clearly, but not, just your regular speaking voice. And have a friend film you, as I said, or you can create a tripod or purchase a tripod. They're not very expensive. You can get a tripod for what, Emma? Probably less than $20. Definitely less than $30. And there are many tripods now that you can clip your phone to. And once you've recorded, you're going to submit that recording online. And this is showing the page. Whoop, that's fast. Sorry. That is the Go Tell It submission page. It's really simple. You add the files from your phone or from your computer, upload them, and then there's a short form that you fill out. I'm going to move it on because that's kind of dizzying, but it's really simple to do. Record the video, upload it, and then it will be added to the collection. I think, Emma, can you give us $20 or less from Target, Emma says. Emma, how many Go Tell It videos do we currently have on the Quilt Alliance YouTube playlist? I'm going to guess that it is over 800.
I think it's more than 900 now.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Could you be number 1,000? Somebody out there? I hope so.
Exactly. That's our challenge. We're going to see
Yep.
how many we're going to wait. Let's say we'll wait 2 weeks from today and see if there are any uploads from this audience. I hope so. I hope that by the end of this program, you are empowered and curious about this. Today's tellers are from many different states and many different guilds. I focused today on folks who had recorded their Go Tell It recording at a guild, event, show, meeting, exhibit, that kind of thing. So you could see, because I want to talk about specifically how this is useful for a group or a community. And here are some of the other tellers that I'm going to show you. Yes, Victoria Finley Wolf is here. Of these names you may recognize, and others you may not know. And maybe some of those you do have personal connections to the show or the guild. But there are just so many ways and reasons to do video documentation like this. So one way is to use it with your guild or your group. And I had made a presentation to a guild a couple months ago, And one of the things that we were talking about was finding ways to integrate new members. And show and tell is a typical program activity at guild meetings. And Go Tell It is simply a show and tell online show or a recording of a show and tell. So it's a great way to interact with other members, get to know. People say things in their videos that they might not otherwise tell you, so that quilt kind of gets them thinking about what gets them thinking and talking, and then the rest of us get to benefit, especially their guild members, and get to know them. You can also honor and celebrate your members, especially charter members or new members. You can document the history of your guild. Many guilds have history committees, and this is a great activity for that group. It's also a great way to enrich and promote your exhibitions and your quilt shows. And at the end of this presentation, the last video I'm going to show you, we incorporated into an online exhibit, and I'll show you how we did that. Let's move on and watch the first one. Emma Parker, did you record this, or was this something that the Guild recorded and shared with us?
I recorded this one at a visit to Austin to give a talk, and then the next day we had a little mini documentation day.
And you sent it to me when you were doing the editing and said, this Go Tell It just has it all. It's such a fascinating
It's a
story.
wonderful story.
Yeah. Okay, we're going to go ahead. I'm going to disappear and I'll come back in between, but enjoy. We are so excited to share these with you.
Hi, my name is Tessa Gonzalez, and I'm telling my quilt story at the Austin Modern Quilt Guild in Austin, Texas. And today is Saturday, February 8th, 2025. I've already apologized to everybody about bringing this very musty quilt, but it does have a lot of history and story. So my biological dad, who I only knew a little bit, he left when I was about 10 weeks old. Not because he didn't want to be my dad or with my mom, it's because he was gay. And he found himself and needed to go explore that. And so there's no hard feelings, he just lived a different life. And I had another dad that I love very much that was there. But at the time, he was stationed in Oklahoma. And he hung out with groups and partied and stuff like that on his off time, and he went to the local fair carnival place and was talking to them after hours about how he had a baby on the way. And they were so excited to hear this that they gave him this quilt to give to me that they had made. And it's full of poly batting, and it's just a 4-square with sashing, but this was so comfortable when it was brand new, and it was our bed quilt. It was the quilt that was on everything. And I'm a house that grew up moving around. When I was like in kindergarten through 1st grade, I was homeless. My mom and I were homeless, and we traveled a lot and stayed in like this Airstream trailer behind a motel for a while. And so we all slept in the same bed and had a dog, and the dog just basically destroyed this area. My mom, who does not sew, has patched this quilt like so many times over the years. So when I look at this quilt, I see what all the patches were. She wasn't a sewer, so she didn't go buy fabric or have a stash. Like, these are from my grandmother's curtains. This was her curtains, and then this was in her living room that used to cover this mushroom footstool that she recovered all the time. And you can see it again here. These were my overalls that I outgrew at one point, and my grandfather's shirts for some of these. There's a lot more in here, and when I see them, like, oh yeah, there's like knit heather gray t-shirt fabric up here and here and here, and you can see the discrepancy in my mother's hand stitching quality But again, like I've mentioned with my last one, this quilt has also been through the ringer. This quilt has traveled with me through times when we only had what we could carry. And then moving into house after house with a lot of different disasters and a lot of different shifting of households and a lot of like, you don't know what you're gonna be able to hold on to. We kept this. And it most recently got the brunt of a tornado about 10 years ago, where the roof got ripped off and then everything got rained on, and it's very musty and it's very much disintegrating. But I wanted to bring it because I don't know how much longer it will exist. So this is my best way to preserve it, since I don't think any amount of stitching will probably help maintain it at this point. So here's my story.
My name is Lizzie Maliakel. I am from Knoxville, Tennessee. I have been a quilter for 40 years. That's about my quilting history. I hand quilt, and this quilt was made by a use and reuse project. Many of the pieces are from a friend of mine, and the embroidered pieces are made by her mother. So which means it may be more than 100 years old, the flower design for them. This, and this. And some of them are her own weaving and knitting samples. I cut them into, some of them I cut them into squares and circles and appliqued it. The only pieces belonging to me are this and this. Thank you, that's it.
Hi, my name is Victoria Finley Wolf, and I'm here at QuiltCon in Austin, Texas, February 23rd, 2013. I'm here with my quilt, Double-Edged Love, and I've just won Best in Show. Yay! I'm from New York City. I run the New York City Metro Mod Quilt Guild, and I just wanted to talk a little bit about, how this quilt came to be. So the challenge for the Modern Quilt Guild for this particular one was modern traditional is the category, and the inspiration came from the fabrics that I chose to work with, which were given to me by Jay McCarroll. It's his fabric line, and the palette is called Center City, and it was based on a city layout of a lot of different cities around the country. So I took that as a theme and worked with a traditional pattern of the double wedding ring, and to see how I could play with the movement and work with the negative space of pushing things forward and backwards within the design of the quilt pattern, but trying not to let the design of the quilt pattern overtake the images itself. It's hard to explain that. So it was also a collaboration quilt, because I had a friend of mine, Lisa Sipes, did the quilting on the quilt. When I got it back from her, then I went back and put in some handwork and some applique to add, I think, all of the different levels of techniques that I could incorporate into this quilt, because to me, modern quilting is trying all the techniques that I have, and even finding a technique that I haven't used before and trying to put it all together into one quilt. And if there hasn't been something I've tried, I try to find one unique thing that I could do to add to this pattern. And for this quilt, the new technique I was trying was the design itself, to do a double wedding ring, because I had not ever done that before. And I'm just really excited to be here. I can't believe I won. It's awesome. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Noreen Skiles, and I'm telling this story as part of the Tidewater Quilters Guild 2022 Quilt Show. This is my temperature quilt for 2021. It was done improv, so each day the block when I made it, it was just an improv block that I felt like making. The colors are all part of a color chart if you've never seen a temperature quilt. And so there's a grid related to a range of colors, and each block shows the high and the low for that color. So in reality, this is a thermal map for the year 2021. Unfortunately, during that year, in July or June, my husband passed suddenly. And so in the end, this became a memorial quilt for my husband, since I put his name in here and I put rest in peace at the bottom, and then the back label talks about my husband as well as the color quilt. I'm really happy with this quilt, and I think I would love to do another temperature quilt for another year at some time.
I'm Bill Volkening. I'm here in Austin, Texas at QuiltCon 2015 with my display of vintage 1970s quilts, modern materials, quilts of the 1970s. It's the debut exhibit of these quilts. They'll be exhibited also in museums starting later this year. This is one of my favorite quilts. It came to me as a top from an eBay seller in Louisiana, and a lot of these quilts, I got in early on buying these types of quilts and was able to purchase it for a very reasonable price. But there's also been conservation work done on it, and I don't know anybody else who's doing conservation work on quilts from the 1970s made out of double knit polyester, but I feel like it's worth it. The quilt was backed by a professional conservator, and you can see on the back, if you lift it up, it's just sort of very kind of stitched so you could pull it off. All conservation, the best conservation work is removable, so that's what they did with this. All of the blocks are, all of the patches, individual patches are stitched together with the rickrack. It's not pieced with the rickrack on top of that as an embellishment. The rickrack is hand stitched to the patches all throughout the entire quilt. 112 by 120 inches. It's vibrant. It's got these hot colors. It's pure 1970s joy. Looks like the Partridge Family bus went on a psychedelic trip and made a quilt.
Hi, my name is Susan Newsom. I'm telling this story for the 2022 Tidewater Quilt Guild's Quilt Show. This is a quilt that we put in for our dear friend Sue Vogel. She was born in 1925, Southwest Texas, and had a varied life. She was the first youngest nurse ever in the United States Army. She joined up when she was just 16, but she also has a love for quilting. So she learned to quilt in one of her deployments in Hawaii. Teaching Hawaiian applique was one of her favorites, and she taught our quilt guild, which was the Nimble Thimble Quilt Guild, Quilt B, sorry. And this is a fan pattern. She started it in 1996 at the Spring Fling for our quilt show, and I just finished a few of the blocks and sewed them together. They were left unfinished, but it's a treasure for all of us that remember her. Thank you.
So all of the videos you've just seen were done by guilds or at guild shows, and the next group I want to show you are from community quilt days, and these are events that either we have put together or someone we've worked with, an organization we worked with, created a community quilt day. And this is just a day where community members can bring quilts to be evaluated, to be photographed, to be documented. And we have started working with groups like the African American Quilt Documentation Study Group, the International Quilt Museum, National Quilt Museum, lots of different groups to create these opportunities for documenting quilts in community. It's a great way to bring create a community event, document the quilts in a particular area or region, And then you've got this documentation that you can share and watch together, either online or watch together at an event. It's a great recruiting tool or an outreach tool for your guild, and really a low lift or an easy way to create a program for a museum, library, or historical society. So let's watch some of these.
Hi, my name is Beverly Davis from Sunnyvale, California. I'm a member of the African American Quilt Guild of Oakland, and this here is only my second quilt that I've made. My great-grandmother had taught me how to do strip quilting when I was kind of in my late teens, early 20s. So this is only the second one. The first one I made for my oldest daughter has gone MIA, so this one we will be guarding with our lives. I actually started it about a little over 25 years ago, and I only had like the middle 5 rows done. And so when I retired, I decided to finish it at the nudging of my daughter. She was asking me, was I ever going to finish it? So these are like 4-inch blocks, and I incorporated clothes that she wore when she was a little girl, as well as material from outfits I made for my father's homegoing. So it's kind of like a memory quilt for us. We can sit back and, you know, say we remember when we were wearing this or doing that. The batting that I use is natural cotton, and then the back part of it is just a sheet from the Nearly New thrift store. And when my grandmother taught me how to do it, she never said anything about documenting the quilts, so I made sure this time around I put a label on it for future references. And I do love family history, so being able to continue this tradition of quilting is kind of special to me, and I'm honored to be able to have this quilt documented.
My name is Carol Schledweiler-Butsky, and I am telling my quilt story at the Wisconsin Museum of Quilts and Fiber Arts in Cedarburg, Wisconsin on Friday, August 17, 2018. This quilt is called Bright Hopes, Bright Promise. It was made for the contest in honor of the Statue of Liberty Centennial in 1986. The contest was sponsored by the 3M Corporation and the American Folk Art Museum of New York. When I decided to do the challenge, I started looking for an idea. And I knew I wanted something that did not have the statue as the main focal point. And then out of the blue one day, I saw, of all things, a bread commercial on TV with an old photograph of immigrants on a ship looking off in the distance at the Statue of Liberty. Whoa, this is just what I was looking for. And unfortunately, my township was in a political war with the county, and we could not use any of the county libraries. So it was very difficult for me to research where this photograph actually came from. And that period of time was actually 8 years, if you can imagine that. We owned a business and paid taxes in another county, so I could have library access in that county. However, when I applied for the library card, the librarian was very reticent, and she stamped and read all over my card, "Not a resident." I cried, not because of her, but now I had a library card after all those years, and I could take my kids to the library. I found the photo and was able to enlarge it to fit my needs. There was no credit for the photo listed. And another day, I was working around the house, a game show announcer, of all people, ended his program on TV with a quote, "Where liberty dwells, so there is my country," which is written on the bottom corner of the quilt. He did not give the name of the person who had quoted that he quoted, but it was perfect. And several years later, I learned it was Ben Franklin. A few years later, Betty Alderman, who was a well-known teacher in the area from Sheboygan, took me aside and told me that the immigrant photo had been attributed to her uncle, who was a professional photographer in New York at the time. So everything kind of all came together. The block chosen as the background is called Our Country, which seems to link together a strong union, just as our 50 states have worked together to form a strong country. Quilt was chosen in the contest to represent Wisconsin and was chosen by Donna Wilder, one of the judges, to receive one of 7 awards. It traveled for 3 years with the Folk Art Museum to Japan and the United States, and it's on the cover of a college history book. I was amazed. I received letters from people all over the country who were moved by the quilt. And one lady I met came to me sobbing because she was so moved. I was a bit embarrassed by the responses and unfortunately did not keep the letters, but apparently it moved a lot of people. One last story. When the quilt was finished, my 5-year-old son asked if the new snuggle blanket was ready yet. I immediately got it out for him and he fell asleep underneath it on the Davenport. So as the saying goes, it was properly slept under. Thank you.
This quilt is called Black Star, and it's paper piece. All of these little triangles are different fabrics, and it took me like a year, 12 months of Tuesdays. I only sewed on this quilt on Tuesday with a group of friends at the Presbyterian church that I go to and sew. So this is how this quilt came about. So that's it.
My name is Peter Cuck, and I'm telling my quilt story here at the Smith McDowell House in Asheville, North Carolina. And today is Tuesday, April 19th, 2022. The quilt here is part of the Mountain Heritage Center collection at Western Carolina University. And it was made by Eunice Leona Taylor Hall, we think, in the early 19-teens. And she lived in Lester, North Carolina, which is about 15 miles due west of where we're standing today. And it's a very rural farming community. And being pretty isolated brings up questions about whether people in rural parts of the mountains were connected or whether they were isolated. How do they communicate with the rest of the state and rest of the country? And we think this quilt actually answers some of those questions. The pattern is State of Massachusetts. And it's actually one of thousands of quilt patterns that were circulating around the country through magazines and newspapers in the late 1800s and early 1900s. This particular block pattern was part of a series produced by Hearth and Home magazine. In 1907, Hearth and Home, which was published out of Augusta, Maine, sent out a call to their readers asking them to produce a pattern that best represented their state. And this is the state of Massachusetts. Hearth and Home published all these quilt blocks from 1907 through 1912, and we think Leona Hall picked up a pattern from a friend, or maybe she had a subscription to Hearth and Home herself and was able to copy it. We've got another connection to the wider world, or certainly the state. There's a little bit of the backing showing through right there, which is an Alamance plaid. And Alamance plaids were very popular in the mid-1800s all the way through to when Leona Hall was making this quilt. Just simple plaid fabric that was produced in cotton mills all across North Carolina. But again, Leona Hall would have had to go to the store to purchase this cloth, and she likely purchased it with this quilt in mind, we think. I love this quilt. It's got a lot of visual tricks going on with it. If you look at the triangles, sometimes they point one way and sometimes they point the other. It's almost as if she's alternating them with the different blocks. The sashing and then what's known as the cornerstones, the little checkerboard pattern, almost add a bit of calmness to the quilt up against the sort of vivid quilt block themselves. So we're really happy to share this quilt, and we hope you can come see us at the Mountain Heritage Center sometime and see the rest of our quilts. Thank you.
My name is Cheryl Schaefer-LeBeau, and I'm telling my quilt story at a community quilt day in Hazard, Kentucky. Today is Saturday, May the 27th, 2023. And the quilt I have behind me was made by my grandmother. Her name was Nellie Teeter Helmick. She lived in Gilmer County, West Virginia. She made over 300 quilts in her lifetime. every quilt, every stitch, pieced and quilted by hand. And she was missing the last knuckle on her finger. She got it pulled off in a chicken plucker. And so this was her thimble finger. That's where she wore her thimble. And it's bigger, you know, it's like a thumb-sized thimble, but that is the thimble that I use today. I put tape inside of it, and I use that kind of in her memory. Specifically, this quilt was made before I was born, so somewhere in the 1950s or thereabouts. Some of the material could be feed sacks. I don't know. She raised chickens, had 2 hen houses, a mean hen house and a nice hen house. So my sister and I were allowed to go gather eggs in the nice hen house, but not the mean. And a lot of the chicken feed came, and she kept the feed sacks. The top corner of the quilt here has a couple of holes in it. We had a little dachshund named Samson von Schultz, and he got a hold of it and chewed a hole in it one time. But this was on my parents' bed forever and ever. I'm the last one in the family left now, so I've ended up with most of the quilts. And I really can't think of anything else to say about it. So there's the quilt.
This is Carolyn Johnson. I'm Dan, her husband, and we're telling our quilt story at the McKinney Center in Jonesboro, Tennessee. Today is Saturday, May 13th, 2023. The story of this quilt is that the blocks were made by Carolyn's grandmother, Dorothy Leisure, in Illinois in 1930. The quilt that was originally made from them either fell apart or was not admired. And so when Carolyn joined as a founding member of the Blue Ridge Quilters Guild, one of the projects she undertook was to reset those blocks. And so she did the setting and the quilting. And the fun part is that the quilts were made by her grandmother and her father when he was about 8 or 10 years old. Okay? He claims to have put the tongue in the blue jay. When she had finished the quilt, she flew to Chicago, traveled to Danville and Georgetown, Illinois, and she and her grandmother entered the quilt in the Vermilion Valley Stitchers quilt show, where they together won blue ribbon for embroidery, which is a very fun thing to have done with her grandmother. And the main thing we would be interested in knowing, we know that these bird embroidery patterns were, this is I'm her memory, this is my memory, this is a scrapbook page. These were patterns from the Danville Commercial News about 1930. And if anybody knows anything about those patterns, we'd be interested in knowing about them. And I think that's our story.
Hi, my name is Denise Bell. I'm telling my quilt story here at the Cherokee National Holiday Quilt Show in Tahlequah, Oklahoma. This is August 31st, 2024. My quilt started as a Ken McLean pattern that had lollipop trees. A few weeks after I started this quilt, my husband and I were in a motorcycle accident. And we were kind of housebound, sort of, for months on end, a couple of months. And the applique tend to take on a whole different life. So it began with the 4 trees. There should have been 16 according to the pattern, but because I was sitting in a chair with my leg propped up, I started looking more at the area around me. I live not far from Tahlequah, near Lost City, Oklahoma, and in the trees on our farm, there are big grapevines. These are natural vines that show up in the Ozarks, and we're part of the foothills of the Ozarks. So I started adding vines, which I've always wanted to do. Then things progressed, and I added flowers, and there is a skep down below, inspired by a friend who was embroidering bees, and we have a lot of pollinators on our farm. So I added the skep and bees, which have buttons for wings. And my quilt artist is Ann Olson, and she and I talked about the different natural things in our world that I wanted to include. So she added spider webs and spiders and butterflies and everything else that, if you look really close, you can see on the quilt. The name of the quilt, as I've called it, is Life in Lost City.
I want to reiterate that anyone can record and submit these videos. It doesn't have to be a part of a group or a community day or a guild. You can set up a tripod as we showed, or a makeshift tripod, and document a quilt that you've made or that you own and upload it to our website, or use it on your own video sharing account or social media. It is well worth the trouble to do this. And you've seen the variety here of all the different things that people talk about, what they include. We've got from curators to quilt makers to folks who own special quilts to teachers, guild members, folks who are memorializing family members or fellow guild members. I thought that one with the guild member who was memorializing one of their fellow members was really special. I'm going to skip forward a little bit because of time, because I want us to have enough time to for you to ask questions and us to have a little conversation as needed. But let's look at exhibits and using Go Tell It videos in an exhibition. And I'm going to move forward.
Hello.
You'll be able to see these ones I'm skipping in the
Hello.
playlist that we've that Emma created, that she shared the link to, and we'll share that again. Videos are a great way to enrich an exhibition. You can create a Go Tell It video and create one of those QR codes that you scan with your phone that leads viewers to the video. We've done a Textile Talk on this topic, and we've done some membership, some video workshops for our members. It's very simple to make a QR code. Or you could set up a video monitor to play the videos at your show. It makes a great place to have a resting lounge. That's a great place to show videos. And then there's online exhibitions. So I'm going to show you how the Quilt Alliance used Go Tell It in a virtual exhibition that we did in 2021. And first, I'm going to show you the video. Sylvia Hernandez is a quilter, an artist in Brooklyn, New York, and we invited her to be a part of this exhibition with one of her quilts. So she's talking about that quilt. She had a family member record it, or a friend, and then we edited in the photo of the quilt. So the quilt is not actually behind her, as you can see, because it's on exhibit somewhere, I think, but in an actual exhibit. But this is the video.
Hello, my name is Sylvia Hernandez. I live in Brooklyn, New York. I make quilts about current events. This particular quilt, Flint Water, I made in response to what's going on in Flint, Michigan, with the children and families being poisoned by the water situation there. Um, it's a very sad story. I wanted to represent this somehow on the quilt, so I put red buttons in to show the blood tests that the children and families had to have to prove that they were being poisoned. There's a glimmer in the fabric in the fountain, which shows the contamination. The image that I used on this particular quilt was a young boy that was in an after-school program that I was helping out at. He happened to have a drink at the water fountain, and as soon as I saw that image, I knew that that's what I wanted to use for my piece. I asked his mom's permission, and she said fine. And Destin was kind enough to do it for us again. So I got this great photo of him drinking at the water fountain. So the point of this quilt is I make current event quilts. They're stories that have to be told. It's important that we continue to tell these stories so they will not be forgotten and brushed to the side. If you look at my other pieces of work, they all tell a story about something that's going on. Much like when we were children and we did current events in school, we had to pick up the newspaper, write a story about it. That's what I do, but I do it in quilts. So thank you for letting me participate. And yeah, tell your stories are important. People need to know what's going on. This is part of our legacy. So tell your stories, label your quilts. It's important. Thank you.
I'm sorry, the audio on that one was fairly low, so it's hard to tell. It's hard to hear it well. You have to kind of adjust the volume on your own device on these Zoom leveled audios. But that was a great example of how to use video that's submitted by participants in the exhibition to create additional meaning in the exhibition. So this one was called Quilt Making and Memory Making, Warm Remembrances, Quilt Making and Memory Making, and it was for a virtual event we did in September 2021. This is what the website looked like. And there were photos of all of the quilts. And Sylvia Hernandez was one of the artists. And I think this is a screenshot. Yes, this is the page that her work is featured on. So you can see the quilt itself, some detail images, and some text that the curator of the exhibition wrote. And then at the bottom of that page is where the video went. We embedded the video and included it in the additional sort of enrichment section of the online exhibition. So really a great way to add some additional content to an online exhibition. I'm going to turn that off for just a second and ask Emma Emma, would you like to come on? I know you weren't prepared. I know you're in a storage room and you're in the library, Durham Public Library. So thank you for being willing to come on. But do we have any questions? I don't think we do. I thought we maybe would just talk a little bit about what our personal experiences have been. Go ahead, Emma.
Yeah. Oh, I was going to say that we did get one question that I answered in the chat, but I just thought I'd talk about it a little bit because this question we get a lot. And Anita said, I think at one point you said that these special you refer to these quilts as special. And she asked, does it have to be a unique pattern, or is it okay to just note the designer of the pattern and be safe concerning copyright laws? And I wanted to say two quick things, which the first is, we think every quilt is special. You'll notice that some of these folks in videos were famous and they were at quilt shows, and some were just at home. They were not, you know, famous, well-known quilters. So every quilt is special enough to have a go tell it about it. I want to say that right off the bat. But also, yes, it does not have to be a quilt that is your original design. You can talk about a quilt that you've made or a quilt that you own. And I think it's always good practice to credit the pattern designer, but it is an artistic work that you've created. So to talk about your quilt on a video, even if it's someone else's design, should be more than fine. I think any pattern designer would love to see your work. So yeah, I just wanted to answer that on video as well as by text.
Yeah, really good point. And Michelle is asking if, yeah, you answered it, but I don't know if you answered this one though. She's asking if there's a way to search the database of Go Tell It, and we do not really have a way to search it yet. We're working towards that, since this is not really an archive home where we are presenting the videos is on YouTube. So there's not really an archive like the QSOS collection is archived in the Library of Congress. But
you can search our just our YouTube page for a name. So if you know the name of the teller, but we would love to have a way to search by like location or by the quilt maker's name, because it's not always the teller's name. But we don't have that yet.
There are multiple playlists. As Emma shared a playlist today, there are playlists for guilds who have undertaken the project, museums. We have an International Quilt Festival, a Quilt Con, a let's see, just different guild shows, and all of the quilts collected or recorded during those shows are found in those playlists. Also, the community quilt days each have one. I think we are running out of time, but I am so glad to be able to share this. Emma and I have often been on the other side of the camera recording these videos, and we do think every quilt is special, and we do truly believe that every quilt is a historic document worth preserving. And we also know, though, that quilts live longer than their makers. So the time to record these videos is now. Don't put it off. Better not perfect.
Yeah.
You don't
It doesn't have to be slick.
Yep.
Just doesn't have to be perfect.
Get to it. Yeah. All right. Well, I thank you, Emma, for coming on.
Yeah. It's nice to see you all.
Yeah, and I want to share next week's Textile Talk is Sakwa's Conversations with Artists, Color and Context Blue. That looks really great. And thank you all so much for being here. I hope that you will check out the Go Tell It collection, both watching the videos and look at the DIY guidelines, and think about how this might be a project that your community, project, guild, library, region would like to do, and we'd love to talk to you about it. So have a great rest of your week, folks. Thanks for being here.